Hello, I'm Maddie Harvey. I'm a knitwear designer and knitting teacher based in Edinburgh, where it's been snowing. And welcome if you're watching live, and welcome if you're watching the replay. I like to create knitting patterns, knitting kits, and online events to help knitters develop their creativity and confidence. So today I'm going to be talking about garter tabs on the tops of top-down shawls. But if you've never watched these videos before, they're called Knits and Cake for Breakfast, because before lockdown and coronavirus and everything, I was running a weekly knit night that I would always do baking for. And on a Thursday morning, after I dropped my kids at school, I would have some of the leftover cake for my breakfast. So these wee videos are just a little bit of a catch-up. And I'll show you what I've been working on, and then I'll give you this week it's a little sort of tutorial about some top tips about garter tabs for the tops of top-down shawls. So this week, if you watched last week, you might have seen that I've been cooking some things from this recipe book that I got for Christmas called The Batch Lady. And so yes, it was last week. I made two things from here, two sort of cakey things that could go in the freezer. So I'll show you the picture. I made a chocolate raisin slice, which was a bit like a no-cook chocolate cake. And then I also made the peppermint slice. So that's the no-cook chocolate cake. And then there was a peppermint slice. Now, the peppermint slice, mine didn't come out looking like it does in the book. I don't know if I melted the chocolate, I made it too hot. You know, like if you melt chocolate in the microwave and you leave it in for too long by mistake, it goes grainy. Because when I put the mixture into the tin, so it makes like a whole baking tray, I put it in, it was a bit, it was quite hard to get it to smooth out. So when I tried to put the white chocolate on the top, it didn't really spread very well, and I kind of didn't have enough. So I just did what I could, and then I decided I would put some little sprinkles on. So I've cut it into very small pieces because it's quite sweet. So I think if I made it again, I would maybe have a bit more white chocolate for the top. And so these slices, where it went in the freezer last week, and I took them out yesterday, and that's worked fine, which is really good, because it makes a whole tray worth. So unless you've got a lot of people that you're feeding, you wouldn't eat that because it's really, really sweet. You wouldn't eat that quickly enough before it went off. So it's fine out of the freezer. And actually, I discovered if you're really in desperate need of some cake, and when you take it out of the freezer, you can eat it frozen. It's fine. That's what I did yesterday. I took some of the raisin, the chocolate raisin one out, and it wasn't like, you know, bite into it, break your teeth hard. I was able to eat some of it. So I'm having a wee bit of that for my breakfast, and I've got my cup of coffee. So on Sunday, I put my SOS Cowl up onto Ravelry, and I did a post on Instagram saying that it was free for mailing list subscribers. So that's been really popular. So if you haven't got your hands on this, it's a cowl pattern that's designed to use up little scraps and leftover bits of yarn. This is the single loop, but you can make a double loop, and you can use this one I've made has got like a background colour, which you don't have to do. You can do it fully with scraps. So it gives you 4 different options there. You've got the small and the big, then you've got this one, which is got a background colour and scraps, or you can do full scraps one, or you can use mini skeins as well. So it's really versatile, and the pattern has loads of tips about how to use your leftovers, mini skeins, how to order them, and things like that. So that's been really nice to see lots of people appreciating that. as a free pattern. So you can buy it on Ravelry, or if you sign up to a mailing list, you can get that for free, and then add it to your Ravelry library. So that's the SOS Cowl. I had already given my mailing list subscribers access to it, and then now I've launched it for new mailing list subscribers. So yeah, that's been really nice. So that happened on Sunday because I was taking part in the Waltham Abbey wool show, which was lovely, and I offered it as part of that to sort of launch it, which was great. And then next weekend I'm taking part in the Yorkshire Yarn Fest, so I've been trying to knit up a new sample of my Colomella shawl, which was originally in Making Stories magazine, the first issue. I got this out to look at it yesterday, and now I'm not going to be able to find the pattern to show you what it looks like. Here it is. It's got a little bit folded up on her, on the model. So I have knitted, I'll just bend down and reach this. I knitted one for myself, but this is not in the yarn that it is in the magazine. So this is done in Kettle Yarn Company's yarn, and it's a big sort of parallelogram shaped wrap shawl, and it's got garter rib, and it's got this sort of travelling stitch across. You're not going to be able to see the full effect of it. Anyway, but the actual sample that was in Making Stories magazine was knitted in Cambrian Yarns 4-ply, which they're based in Wales, and their yarn is gorgeous. It's very, very soft, and I have ordered some yarn so that I can do kits. I'm looking down here because I've got the one that I'm working on, and it's it's attached to a cone. So it's a good job we're not able to go out and about at the moment with our knitting, because I would not be wanting to carry around a big cone of yarn. Yeah, so I'm just going to pick it up and then I can show you. So it's this is the slate colourway. The light's not great here, maybe on that side. So I haven't actually done very much. I've had I've had a lot on, I guess, with homeschooling and things. So I haven't really, I've only just done the bottom triangle, and now it's going to knit straight. So I don't really know if I'm going to get this finished in time for next Saturday's Yorkshire Yarn Fest, but I will try my best. So I'm going to have kits in that lovely grey, which is called Slate, and then I've got a light grey and a lovely muted turquoise for kits. So I need to crack on with that. And I've also been, I've left it over there, a swatch for this jumper that I'm wearing, which I am, at the moment it's called Clootie, after Clootie Dumpling, which is a Scottish steamed pudding. And it's a marled sweater, top down. So I've been swatching for that, and I've left it over there, which is quite annoying, but it's yeah, I want to knit it in different yarn from the yarn that I used for this prototype. So that will be coming later in the spring, that jumper, so you can look out for that. And I think that's all I've been working on. I have been sorting out things for the workshops that I'm running on Sunday. So I'm doing one about the double pass technique, which is a bit like what you do when you do two-colour brioche, where you knit the stitches on the right side and then you slide them back along and you knit the right side again with the second colour. But it's not as complicated as brioche. So that's actually, that one's sold out. Now that one's on Sunday morning, and then in the afternoon I'm teaching a workshop about shawl edgings. So we're going to do an I-cord edging, a picot edging, and a knitted on triangular edging. A bit like the kind of thing you might see on a Shetland lace shawl, but not quite as complicated, and definitely not in lace weight yarn. We're going to be knitting 3 little mini shawls, all in double knit on 4.5mm needles. So yeah, we won't be making Shetland lace shawls on Sunday afternoon, and there's still some spaces for that one if you fancied it. So yeah, because I'm teaching a shawls workshop, which is one of my favourite things to teach, I thought I would show you about some sort of tips and tricks for perfecting the garter tab start of a shawl. So I'm going to show you how to do a garter tab, and then I'll show you a couple of things that you can do to make it a little bit neater and to make it a bit easier as well. So what I have to do here is try to turn my phone around so that I am pointing down on my desk here so that you can see. So you might have to bear with me for a moment, because this is my Little Golden Moments shawl, which is a top down semicircle shawl, and it has a garter tab at the beginning, but you can see there that it's nice and straight across the top. So what sometimes happens with garter tabs is, especially if you're making a garter stitch shawl, because you get a lot of stitches crammed in here when you're picking up, this can sometimes kind of bulge up the way and you get a bump along the top of your shawl. So there is a really good kind of guide. It's not a pattern, it's more of a guide, a how-to on Ravelry, called The Tale of Two Shawls. And in that, I can't remember the name of the writer, but she shows you how to make a bump-free garter tab, which is effectively what you're doing is putting yarn overs along the top here instead of just picking up every single in every single garter ridge, which I'll show you in a minute. If you haven't done a garter tab cast on before, this might not mean a lot to you, but there is a sort of a thing with garter tabs that they do tend to kind of bulge up like that. So if you go on Ravelry, you can download that guide called The Tale of Two Shawls, and she shows you how to make it with yarn overs, but I'm going to show you how to do that just now as well. So I also know that the bit that people struggle with, the other bit that people find hard, is the bit where you've got to pick up stitches along the cast on edge. So I will show you how to do that. Okay, so here is a bit of knitting. So usually with a garter tab you cast on 3 stitches and you knit a few rows, depending on how many stitches it's asking you to pick up. So you finish like this, and it asks you to turn it 90 degrees, which I always find, well, I used to find really confusing until I realised it meant to do that. Okay, so you've knitted that way, then you turn 90 degrees and you're going to pick up stitches all along here. So you're picking up really 1 stitch in each of these little garter ridges, and what I try to do is pick up the stitch right in the middle there of each of the bumps at the top. So I'll go in here and wrap my yarn around, pull through a stitch, and then here there's another one. So I think I've done 5. I've got 5 to pick up here, 1 in each of these ridges. So just make sure that you're going into the middle of that garter ridge, and you're going under 2 strands on the edge. That helps to make it neater. And then I've got 1 more in here. And then along that bottom edge here, what I did, which I'll show you in a minute, I used a crochet hook and I did that crochet cast on, which I'll show you. So it means that I've got 1 stitch here, 1 here, and 1 there that I can pick up under. So I'm going to go under those 2 strands there and put my yarn. That's the tail, so I don't want to knit with that. Pick up a stitch there, go under that stitch from the cast on edge and pick up and then that's the last one there. So that's what you're doing. You knit this garter strip, and then you pick up along the long edge, and then you pick up 3 stitches along the cast on edge, and then you would work your wrong side row. So I'll just show you how to do that the crochet cast on. So you need a crochet hook, and I'm just got a plain needle here just so I can show you. But basically, if you tie your slip knot onto the crochet hook, and I've found that this way of casting on for this makes it easier to pick up the stitches on the cast on edge. So you hold the crochet hook in your right hand and put the working yarn underneath your needle, and then you just put the yarn over the crochet hook and pull it through this slip knot here. Okay, and so then you've got 1 stitch cast on. Then put the yarn round to the back of the knitting needle, and then loop it around the crochet hook and pull that through the stitch that's on the crochet hook. It is a little bit awkward, but you only have to do that twice, because I've got 2 stitches there, and then this one, the last one, you just put that one on the needle, and then you've got 3. And then if you look under here, you can see you've got 1, 2, 3 stitches there that are a bit easier to see than a usual cast on for picking up. And the other thing you could do, if you really wanted to make sure that you picked up, when you work the garter tab, that you picked up those stitches, is you could just put one of these lockable stitch markers through each one, so like that, and then when you come to pick them up you could identify them quite easily. But I find that cast on, although it is a wee bit awkward to do, you're only casting on 3 stitches, and it is much easier then to see when you pick up for the garter tab. Now, the other thing I'll show you is how to make the garter tab bump free. So I'll just take this out here, back to the 3 that I had. Okay, so basically what you're doing is when you make the garter tab and it kind of stretches up and it makes a bump, is because you've got lots of stitches crowded in to a small space. So what you need to do is, instead of picking up a stitch in each of these ridges here, is make a yarn over in between. So I've still knitted the same number of rows as the pattern would tell me to, and I'm going to end up with the same number of stitches, but instead of picking up in this first ridge here, I'm going to make a yarn over. So bring the yarn to the front and just put it across my needle, and then I'm missing that one out, but I've got a yarn over, which is the equivalent of the stitch picked up in there. Then I'm going to pick up a stitch in the next ridge, and then I'm not going to pick up in this one, so instead I'll make a yarn over, and then I'll pick up in the next one along, and then I will miss this one out but make a yarn over instead, because I want to keep my stitch count the same, and then I will pick up along my cast on edge. So I'm turning it 90 degrees again, and I can see quite clearly I've got 1, 2, 3 stitches on this cast on edge. Because I used the crochet cast on, I can pick up in there. So that's 1, 2, 3. Now you won't be able to see straight away how this bump free garter tab makes a difference, but as you start knitting you will see that it is much flatter than a normal garter tab. The workshop I'm running at the weekend on Sunday is about edgings of shawls, so the opposite of the garter tab, but there's still some places left if you fancy joining us. You can find the link for tickets in my profile if you're watching later on Instagram, or if you're watching the replay later on Facebook. And also if you're watching later on YouTube, they'll be in the little description down below to get a ticket for that workshop. Okay, I will see you next Thursday. Enjoy the rest of your day.